And it's a problem that honestly is starting to feel like we are seeing Carson Wentz 2.0. It was a quarterback that you won in spite of. Jalen Hurts had perfect circumstances last year. You see what happens when there's not perfect circumstances, the best offensive line, the best run game in football around him. You're seeing what's happening in real time. He is just a guy out there.
A quarterback?
Just a guy. She called him a jag?
The reigning Super Bowl MVP.
Oh, my God.
Just context.
Oh.
Carson Wentz, the year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl against the Patriots, 2018, if I'm not mistaken, was probably trending towards being the MVP of the NFL. I think he had 33 touchdowns, 7 picks, something like that.
He was great.
Gets hurt. Nick Foles comes in. Obviously, we know the rest, right? Ultimately, they realized what Courtney just said, which is that Carson Wentz was not a full-time starting caliber quarterback in the NFL, certainly worthy of being in the NFL as a backup, as we saw this year in his time with Minnesota. And he's been in, 6 years, something like that. So teams want him. They just don't want him forever and as their starter. But ultimately, the Eagles drafted a quarterback to replace him or to potentially replace him or compete with him. So there's a few parts of this. Is Jalen Hurts just the guy? And do you think they could bring in another quarterback to potentially compete with him moving forward?
I mean, sure, they can. But if you allocate those resources to a quarterback that's not a developmental prospect, then ultimately you're taking away from what this team's championship window could possibly be, right? Jalen Hurts was a second-round pick. A second-round pick is valuable in this league. That's a starter if you hit on that player.
Especially with Howie Roseman drafted him.
1,000%. And so I don't know that the organization is going to take the position of giving away a premium draft choice in the instance of trying to hedge against what has been a really good football player for you since you got him. I mean, Jalen Hurts has only ever known the playoffs as a starter. There's value in that. Jalen Hurts has played well in the postseason. There's value in that. This guy steps up on the biggest stage the game has to offer. Not once, but twice. There's value in that. I don't understand why everybody has gotten to the place of thinking that Jalen Hurts can no longer play football just because he's reached a rough patch. It reminds me a lot of the conversations that people were having around Eli Manning in 2011. Our team had lost 4 straight games that season. They were talking about firing everybody and how Eli Manning might not be the guy long-term for the franchise. Which is wild, saying that he beat the undefeated Patriots that were 18-0. He went head-to-head and Tom Brady invested him. It's wild to think that you wouldn't have conviction on that player. Oh, Eli Manning's not worth the money that the Giants paid him a couple of years ago. Everybody was saying that. Then all of a sudden, our team got hot. We went on a run and won another Super Bowl against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots.
So he's more 11 Manning than he is Wentz.
Exactly. Think about
in your mind.
In 2011, Eli Manning had 30 total touchdowns to 20 total turnovers.
Horrible stats.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah, horrible.
And yet,
you have a ring from it.
I got a ring from that.
Yeah.
It is wild to me to think that people want to throw away a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And we're not just talking about any quarterback. This dude wasn't a passenger on a Super Bowl winning team. He was the Super Bowl MVP. He had 3 total touchdowns in that game. He had a passer rating north of 110 in that game. He was the reason why you won. Yeah, the defense was great. Everybody knows that front was getting after Patrick Mahomes like nobody's business. But Jalen Hurts was cashing in on the takeaways. Jalen Hurts was cashing in on the possessions. I told you, my wife and I were at that game. We left midway through the third quarter because it wasn't a game.
It was so boring.
That's how good Jalen Hurts was. So I just...
It was BTA. It was boring. There was no drama.
I don't understand how we've gotten to the place where we think that Jalen Hurts can't play football. I don't understand why we're avoiding the obvious answers as to why this Eagles offense and why the quarterback are struggling.
And what are those?
Occam's razor. The simplest solution is probably the right. The simplest answer is probably the right one. Like that's where we're at. Jalen Hurts has had 6 different play callers since he's been the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. If you want to take it back to college, Evan, Jalen Hurts has had 12 different play callers since 2016. 12.
Should I give you the list?
Go through it.
Lane Kiffin, since college. Lane Kiffin, Brian Daboll, Mike Loxley, Lincoln Riley. Then we go to the Eagles. Doug Peterson, Nick Sirianni, Shane Steichen, Brian Johnson, Kellen Moore, and Kevin Patullo. all the play callers that Jalen Hurts has had since 2016.
Yeah, so what do they need? Consistency, right? What they need a clear-cut game plan.
But here's the thing, though. Yes, maybe that's part of the equation. Up until this point right now, we talked about that being a strength for Jalen Hurts. We talked about him being able to be malleable, him being able to be adaptable, him being able to have a different person calling the plays, and he steps up and the team has success around him. That was, as I said yesterday, a feather in his cap that he was able to withstand such churn. A lot of quarterbacks couldn't sustain that. And yes, it's easy to point to him because he's the quarterback. And when things are good, the quarterback gets more of the glory. And when things are bad, they take more of the heat. But it is not just a Jalen Hurts problem. There is more issues with this offense and this team than just Jalen Hurts. That doesn't mean he's absolved of blame, especially because we were talking about weeks ago all the reports that were coming out of Philly with people within the organization and that locker room being frustrated by him wanting to play his game, him wanting to maybe be a little hesitant in throwing the ball, as you always say, Ev, risk averse, things like that. But I don't think it's fair to just put it on his shoulders. And when we talk about him in that game last year, let's also not forget he did that against the Kansas City Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo, who we all say is the greatest defensive coordinator of this era. Don't tell me that he's just a guy. He can win at the highest level against the best team we've seen since Brady and the Patriots against that defense and that defensive coordinator.
Yeah, calling him a jag is all kinds of disrespectful, and people need to be careful when they're doing that. This is a Super Bowl MVP. Give him his damn respect. Like, I think a lot of the conversation around Jalen Hurts and a lot of the critics are people that want confirmation bias of their opinions of him from the outset of his career in the NFL. I think that's what this is. I think there are a lot of people that can't get past Jalen Hurts getting benched at halftime in the college football national championship game for Tua, and they will never view him as a quarterback that is the guy that should be a player that the franchise builds around. I think there's a lot of that baked into all of the criticisms that we have for Jalen Hurts.
People know that Brady got benched at Michigan, right?
They don't, for Drew Henson.
No, I'm just curious if those people are hanging on that.
But there are people that hang on that. And here's the thing that frustrates me, Ev, because we see this a little bit with the Eagles organization under Nick Sirianni. Who the offensive coordinator is has an outsized impact on what we've seen on the field. When we like Nick Sirianni's coordinators, when it's Shane Steichen or Kellen Moore, the offense is good and Jalen Hurts looks like a top 5 quarterback. When we don't, we go to the place of blaming the OC and blaming the quarterback before we put anything on the head coach. And I got a problem with that. A part of coaching, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is getting the quarterback to see the game the same way as the play caller. That was what Ben Johnson said at his introductory press conference about Caleb Williams. He said that is one of his top priorities in that job. Why is it different in Philadelphia because Jalen Hurts is the quarterback? Everybody's saying he's not seeing the game the right way. He's not seeing open receivers. Well, it's the coaching staff's job to make sure that he is. It's the coaching staff's job to get him on board. It's the coaching job to make him feel comfortable, to get him in a rhythm of games. Offensive coaches do this all the time, scripting the first 15. Who do you think that's for? It's for the quarterback, to get him comfortable and to give him a lot of different looks at the different types of defenses that opposing teams are going to throw at him, so he knows what to expect for the rest of the game. That is the coaching staff's job. So I'm not sitting here saying that the quarterback is doing his job, because he's not. He hasn't been good of late. But there are also some other people within that organization that ain't doing their damn job too. And they deserve to get the smoke too.
We're on Sportsmanlike, presented by Progressive Insurance.
The NFL on ESPN Radio.
That's the part that's scary if you're an Eagles fan. What it looks like on offense is so bad right now.
Week to week, team to team.
Wow! What a catch! Touchdown! Ready or not.
The NFL lives here. ESPN Radio.
Ready or not.
It's one of those days we're not cooking dinner, so I pulled into Popeyes.
Smart. Popeyes $20 family meal feeds everyone while you take the night off. Take a holiday from cooking. Got a smaller crew? Get 5 pieces of chicken for $9. Love that chicken from Popeyes.
It's the coziest time of year on BritBox.
Very cozy.
That means cuddling by the fire, basking in the ambiance, and starting new traditions.
How often do people get murdered around here?
However you cozy, it's all a bit warmer with BritBox.